This is going to be a tutorial on the add-on car install helper mod for GTA 5. This tutorial does assume that you have some experience installing add-on cars, but if you're a complete beginner and you at least have some basic Windows file management skills, you can probably still follow along. Alright, so let's say I've just downloaded a bunch of cars from the GTA 5 mod site and now I want to get them into my game. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my add-on car install helper and run the program. And then you'll see this first option here for DLC extractor. And what this tool is going to do for me is go through all of these zipped up files and extract that dlc.rpf file and its associated folder. So I'm going to select that. When you first fire up this program, it's asks you to enter in a working directory for the program to spit out all the files it generates. If you don't enter in anything, then it'll just use the same directory that the install helper is actually installed in. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to press enter. And you're given a few options here. So one, extract vehicles from downloads is what I want to do next. So I'm going to select that. And it's asking me for the path to the directory containing all of my vehicle downloads, which is this here. So you can right click here and copy this address as text. And you can Control V to paste it into the program and press enter. And now it's asking me for the type of extraction that I want to perform. So you have two ways of doing this. You can either just feed it the already zipped up files, or you can unarchive these all yourself and just feed it the folders. Doing it yourself tends to be a little bit quicker, but if you don't have a good unzip utility for whatever reason in your Windows system, you can just choose the first option. So I'm just going to do that. And it just takes a few seconds. And there's a disclaimer up here saying that if you chose this option, it's pre-filtering all of the files that don't have dlc.rpf folders, or files, I should say. So if you look at your list here and you're expecting a certain number of cars and it doesn't match, you probably have some cars mixed in here that are replace cars, so they don't have the dlc.rpf file, so they're just getting pre-filtered out. If you were to choose the other option and actually extract all these yourself, you would get more errors in here saying, hey, these are actually replaced cars, and it would just be a little bit more clear about what's happening there. So that's just a quick disclaimer on that. But otherwise, this is just completed. So it says 66 vehicles have been extracted. I can actually now open this directory, open working directory, and I can see all of these folders have been extracted with the dlc.rpf folder. So what I can do now, I can open up Open4, and I'm going to get this going for GTA 5. Now I can go in my mods, update, x64, DLC packs, and most of these tutorials that I've seen, they just tell you to just drop the folders right in here as they are, but I'm actually going to create a subfolder in mine called cars. And this is an important step, and I'll go into more detail about why I did this later. You'll see the reason why I did this later. So I suggest you do the same. It doesn't have to be named cars. You can name it whatever you want it to be, vehicles or whatever. So gone ahead and dumped all those in there. So those are good to go now. I'm going to minimize this and go back to my install helper. So now that we've done that, I can actually click this second option here for generate DLC list inserts. And what that does is it looks at the cars that I just generated here in this vehicles subfolder, and it's going to create the DLC list inserts for me so I can insert them into that dlclist.xml file. So it's asking for the subfolder that you want your vehicles folder to have, and if you took my advice and you made it cars, then you're just going to want to put cars in here. And you can either say slash cars, or you can just type cars like this and it'll add the slash for you. And then it's saying, hey, your inserts will be printed in this format. Does this look correct? And yes, this is how it should look if you have a subfolder here. So I'm going to proceed. And then it just went ahead and generated all these inserts for me. So I could either copy them here or actually put them in a text file as well in this directory. So I'm going to open this working directory again. Here's my text file. I'm going to Control A to select all these and Control C to copy. So now I'm going to go back to Open4. I'm going to go to Update, Update.rpf, Common, Data, dlclist.xml. I'm going to click Edit. And all the way at the bottom, I'm just going to go and paste in those inserts that I just copied. Tab over a little bit just to clean that up. All that looks good. I'm going to click Save. And now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start up my game. Alright, so if you're a complete beginner and all you want to do is quickly get your cars into the game, then at this point you're done. You can open up this add-on Spawner if you have it installed and see all of your cars here ready to be generated into the game. Now, there's a few problems here. Number one is if your goal is to use this with the Premium Deluxe mod, then the cars don't just end up there automatically. You have to do some more configuration for that to happen. The other thing is you'll notice that there's this no make category here. And what ends up happening is for a lot of the older cars and the mod site, the mod creators either just didn't configure it correctly, or maybe something about the game changed and these cars just don't have the language information required to make them have like the right make and model within the game. So like if you, for instance, take a look at this Rolls-Royce Cullinan. If I go ahead and spawn this in, you see it comes into the game, but if I actually get out of the car and then get back in the car, you'll see at the bottom right of the screen, this car has no make and no model, so like it doesn't have a name when you get in. I'm going to show you guys how you can fix that. Alright, so I'm back here in the add-on car helper, and this time I'm going to select the second option for vehicle meta file manager. So now it's asking me for the directory that contains my .meta files. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up Open4 again, and I'm going to go to my mods folder again, update, x64, DLC packs, and here's that cars subfolder that I created. And at this point, where if you took my advice earlier and you made this folder, this is the reason for that. So Open4 has this nice search feature under the tools section where you can actually say, in my search mods folder only, and if you type in some text here, I want to search for vehicles.meta, and it'll find all the results in your mods folder matching this partial text match, whatever you type in up here. Now the cool thing about this is if you just look through these files, it's including everything, but we only want the stuff in this cars subfolder. Now if you scroll down, you'll see there's a certain point where all the stuff in that slash cars folder starts and ends. So it's kind of all grouped together in a way that you can just kind of select it all and not have to like look through all these. So what I can do is I can just start at this first one here, slash cars 18 Velar, and then I can hold shift and scroll down, or you can scroll down first and hold it at the end. So I'm just scrolling here. Now, looks like this is the last one with slash car. So I'm going to hold shift and select this last one. And then it selected everything in between there. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to click this extract results, but I'm going to click the arrow and say extract selected files. And I'm going to find a place to put these. So I'm actually just going to put them in the same directory as my install helper. So I'm going to go to where I had that open, which was on my desktop. And I'm actually just going to make a new folder and just call this meta files. And the name doesn't matter. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to click select folder. And now if I go back to my install helper and let me go find that folder again. Here's meta files. I can double click, right click the path up top, copy address as text. And then let's just go ahead and Control V to paste that in there. So it says vehicle meta files imported successfully, but we have some errors here. So let's view them. So let's see, this one cannot be processed. So this 63, I think I've seen this one before, where if you actually go in here and edit this with Notepad, there's like a weird comment at the bottom here that I don't know why it's there. So I'm just gonna remove that and save. Let's actually go back to the main menu and run this import again. And as you can see, this time there were no errors. So there's some other options in here, but for now, the only purpose of this really is to get your meta files into the program. So at this point, we're just going to return to the main menu. All right, so next I'm going to go to the language generator. And this is asking for GXT2 files. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same search feature that I did for the meta files. So I'll go to search, and before I even do that, if you open up one of these cars files and you just kind of dig inside to this lang folder, you'll see in the language of your choice, that RPF file, there's a file called global.gxt2. So this is the file that I ultimately want out of all of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do search, and I'm going to type in global.gxt2. And it's the same thing as before. I only want the ones in the slash cars subfolder. So as you can see, it starts here. And if I scroll all the way down, it's quite a bit of these. Looks like this is the last one, so I'm going to hold shift and click. Then I'm going to extract selected files. I'm going to go back to this folder where my install helper is, and I'm going to create another new folder for GXT2. Once again, the name does not matter. I'm going to select this folder. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go to this GXT2 file where all these files have been extracted. I'm going to copy the address as text and then paste it in here. So now it's saying all my meta files are imported successfully, and we also have all our GXT2 files imported. So at this point, I can select the show mapping option and actually see how all of my stuff in here is currently mapped. So as you can see, for that column we were looking at, you can see what the problem is right away. There's no display name here for the column, so it doesn't have any information on that at all. And then you'll notice another thing is the make for the column is this Rolls-Royce one here. I know because I've looked at the meta file for this one. So this Rolls-Royce here also doesn't have a display name field. So like it just doesn't map to anything. So what I'm going to do is show you how we can fix those. All right, so there's a couple different ways that you can edit these. The first thing you can do is edit a single mapping with this edit mapping option. So when you do that, it just asks you for the hash value of the mapping you want to edit. So like if I wanted to do this onto here, I would just highlight this hash here. I can right click to copy or click Control C, and then I can Control V to paste. And then it just asks me what I want the display name to be, or I can just press enter to skip. So I'm going to do that for now. The next option is this edit mappings by filter. And what that allows you to do is actually create like a custom filter to limit this list and then edit them all in like a batch. So like for example, let's say I'm looking up here and I'm looking at this section of models here. So let's say I want to edit all of these. So these are all models. Some have display names, some don't. And these all start with the letter C. So I want to edit all the models that start with the letter C and have an empty display name. So I'm going to do is come back to my filter. I'm going to say I want to use a partial text match because I just want the letter C. I want missing display names only, so I only want to edit ones that don't have a display name. And then I only want to edit models. So I'm going to click space on each of those to select them. And because I selected partial text match, it's going to ask me what I want to do it against. So I'm going to say identifier, which is this column here. I'm going to press enter. Then it asks me what the partial text match is. So I'm just going to type the letter C. And then I can either do identifier starts with C or identifier contains C. So I'm going to say starts with C. And then what it does is all the vehicles or model or makes, I should say, that match that filter is just going to spit them out to me one by one. So Cayenne, Cont 88, there's that Cullinan that we've been looking at. And I didn't edit any of those, I just skipped them all, so none of those were actually updated. And the reason I did that is because there's actually two bulk editing options here that kind of gives you a good starting point for these. So I'm going to show these mappings again. You'll see a lot of these are just empty or just completely wrong. But all of this data is somehow related back to your vehicle downloads, right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open that downloads folder. And actually, you have an option here. If we go to open directory, and you can actually just open your vehicle downloads path from right here. And that pops that open for me. And you'll see all of these files, the names that we ultimately want the cars to be, most of it is in here. So what this auto assign model display names does is it looks at these folders and it tries to extract out the vehicle's name from here based on the relationship to this folder and how it relates back to the meta file. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select that now. It's asking me, do I want to update all models or models with empty display names only? I'm going to go with all models and extract those directories. Now it's looking for the file vehiclemakes.txt. And what this basically is a text file that contains a bunch of different vehicle make names. Now this should be included in your install, but for example here, if it's not there for whatever reason, you can go ahead and rebuild the database from a web search. So I'm just going to click yes. And this is the site that I use to scrape that data. You can use your own, but you need to know about like XPath and stuff. So I would just use the default site if you're not an advanced user. Just going to use default site. So I went ahead and generated that file. And now it's saying multiple make names are found in the text. this. So what ends up happening is during this import, it looks at the model name and it tries to remove the make name from the vehicle. But based on this vehicle makes.txt file that gets generated, there might be multiple possible options that could come out of here. So like for example, this one has Mercedes-Benz and Maybach. So I only want to remove the Mercedes-Benz portion. So I'm just gonna select that. And then for each one of these that it finds where there's a discrepancy, it's just going to give you the same thing. So I guess Continental is a separate brand, but I know I just want to remove the Bentley part, so I'm going to do that. Same thing here. This one I want Mercedes-Benz again. And for this one I want the Aston Martin gone. So it says 74 models have been updated successfully. I can show mappings again and actually just filter down to my models. And as you can see, a lot of these have had their display names updated, and a lot of them look fairly correct. I mean, there's a few in here that aren't quite all the way there, like the colonel we've been working on. It wasn't able to remove this part. But for most of these, pretty much 80% of the work is done. So I might update a few of these manually, but for the most part, I think these are good to go. So I can do the same thing with my makes. Before I do that, I'm just going to show what we're working with here. So like a lot of these are wrong. This has the actual model name as the make name. This has the full vehicle name in here. Same thing here, Porsche 911 Turbo S 2016 is the make name. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Auto assign make display names. I want to do all the makes. And you get the same type of prompt here when it can't resolve something on its own. So this one should say Aston Martin. This one should say BMW. 15 updated. I can show mappings again. And you'll see a lot of those ones that were incorrect before have now been updated with the proper names here. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do with this is go back and edit that column that we were looking at because its name wasn't quite correct. So I'm just going to select model here. I'm going to scroll up to my column. I'm going to select its hash here and copy. And I'm just going to edit a single mapping, paste that in, and change this to just say colon. At this point, I'm going to scroll down here and click Save Changes. And what that does for me is outputs all of my changes that I made to this GTA 5 language generator.txt file. Now you want to make sure you click Save Changes before you exit this menu, or else you will lose your progress. But you can click this as many times as you want. And what it does is every time you do it, it'll archive the previous changes that you made into that directory. So I can open this directory, and you'll see there's an archive here that has the previous version. Now it does this for a lot of different things in the application, just to make you aware of that. So like when you're working in the Premium Deluxe Manager, it'll do the same type of thing. So you can just kind of work and save your changes periodically. All right, so what that actually did for me is it took all of those hash mappings and assigned them to the display name that we input there so that now we can take it back to Open4 and get it back into the language files. So I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to open directory. And I'm just going to do Open4 path, and you'll have this if you supplied one at the beginning. So that just popped open Open4 for me. All right, so now that we're back in Open4, I just want to talk a little bit about how these language files generally work. So if you look at one of your vehicles in your mods, update, DLC packs folder, and let me just say I'll look at this 18 Velar. If I kind of dig into the files here, x64, data, there's a lang folder in most of these that'll have different languages. If you open this up and go to this gxt2 file, you'll see a lot of the time there will be like a hash mapping and a display name for what this vehicle is supposed to represent in the game. Now, I don't know why this stuff is in here for that one because that's completely wrong, but I don't know. But this is kind of the root of the problem to why these are wrong a lot of the time. Some will just not have these at all, or it'll just be completely wrong like this one is. So what I realize is that you don't have to insert these into each specific car's language file. There's actually another file here. If you go to mods, then you go to update, update.rpf, x64, patch, data, lang, and then select the language of your choice and open that gxt2 file, you can actually just paste all your inserts into this file and it'll work to make them show up in game. I don't know if this is the proper way of doing this, but I found that it works for me. So that's what I'm sticking with. Let me know in the comments if there's a better way of doing this. So what you want to do is actually select this file and do this export to open text or open format text file. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to just put it on my desktop. And that ended up right here. So now what I can do is just copy all these, Control A and Control C, paste them at the bottom of this file. I'm actually going to clean it up a little bit too. That just got rid of them. Let me just put it back. It's fine. I'm going to save that. And then after you do that, you have to copy this file back into your folder here. So I'm just going to go into edit mode. And I'm just going to drag this back and let it copy over that old one. And now I should be able to start up the game. Alright, so I'm back here in the game. I'm going to spawn in that colony that we've been working on. So as you can see, there's now a Rolls-Royce category, and we have a Rolls-Royce Cullinan inside that category. I can spawn that in. Now if I exit the vehicle and get back in, you can see in the bottom right corner it has the correct name of Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Now the last part of this is going to be getting this to show up in the Premium Deluxe car dealership. Alright, so now we're going to select the option for Premium Deluxe Auto Manager. And it says no valid INI files were found. This is basically just saying you haven't used the program before, you don't have any existing edits, so would you just like to work directly from your meta files? We're going to say yes. Now we can show all vehicles, and you have a lot of the same filtering options that you do elsewhere in the app. So I can say use custom ordering, for example. Let me say I just want to order by the make first and then the model. I continue, and you'll see here's all of my vehicles that were imported and converted into Premium Deluxe compatible cars. So at this point, there's a few different ways that you can edit these. So you have edit a vehicle, which is similar to the language generator, where you can just edit a single vehicle based on the model name. And you also have some options here for edit multiple vehicles, which takes you to this different submenu where you have the edit vehicles by filter. So like for example, this is similar to the language generator, but I can actually select the field I want to edit. So let's say I just wanted to edit the price. So I can deselect these other ones. And then let's say I just want to edit like my Aston Martins. So I'm going to do these two. And it just spits them out at me one by one. So like let's say this one is 100,000, this one is 200,000, and then I can show all vehicles again, and you'll see these two have had their prices updated to 100,000 and 200,000. I can also say I want to bulk edit vehicles, and what this does is instead of spitting out the vehicles at you one by one, it will just edit all of the fields for all of the vehicles that satisfy the filter criteria. So like for example, if I just say bulk edit vehicles, and then let me just say, actually use no filter. So I'll just press enter. And then I just want to edit the price again. And then it asks me what the price should be for all of the cars. So I'll just say 0. Says the 84 vehicles shown in the grid above will be updated as follows. Price 0. I'm going to say yes. And when I show all vehicles again, you'll see the 2 that I updated previously have been set back to $0. So another thing that I can do is I can update names from language files. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at all the language generator edits that you've made, and it's going to try to assign them to your vehicles here. The reason for that is the way the Premium Deluxe mod manages its names is separate from just what's in the language files. So if you want them to match up properly, you have to make sure that you configure the correct name here as well. And this will just do it for you automatically. So I'm going to update names from language files. Would you like to check for new entries? This doesn't really matter. You can just click yes. And it says this will attempt to map all the names of all the vehicles in the current list to their corresponding entry in the available language files. I'm going to say yes. And as you can see, it goes and shows you everything that was updated. So pretty much everything that was in those language files. If I do show all vehicles again, you'll see that now a lot of these vehicles have a lot more user-friendly names in here. So another cool thing I can do is I can update the vehicle prices from a web search. Now what this is going to do for me is it's going to scrape Google and try to do a search on each of these vehicles' make and model names to try to get a real world price for each vehicle. So if I select this here, and this is asking me if I want to do all the vehicles or just do the vehicles where the price is 0. Well, all these have a price 0, so I'm just going to select that first option. But if these were set, you could just do just price 0 to only touch the ones that haven't been changed yet. So it's going to do that. And now it's giving you this warning here saying that when you're scraping Google results, sometimes using this tool, you can get a temporary IP ban and then it just kind of won't work anymore. You're generally okay to use the fast option if you're like not doing this super often, and that's generally a lot faster. But the safe option will reduce your chances of getting an IP ban, and but it's a lot slower. Like it'll take around 10 minutes per 100 vehicles. So you probably generally just want to do fast. And if you use a VPN, you can normally get around any potential IP ban anyway. So there's just kind of a disclaimer here. And the temporary IP ban is not that big of a deal, but it's just that Google doesn't really like web scrapers. So I'm just going to do fast for this example. That's done. It says pricing information has been found for 81 vehicles. Now, what ends up happening is when it's looking through those web pages, it'll find a few different values that you can potentially have for the car. So you can either have the software automatically assign the price or you can manually assign. And what it's going to do if you manually assign is just spit out the cars at you one by one and you can pick which value you want to choose. So auto assign is probably generally the better option. And then you can pick how you want the software to automatically calculate the price. So you can just pick the highest value, the lowest value, or the average of the values. I think generally the highest value is the best option, or the average value can also be a good option. I don't think you really want to do the lowest value because then you'll probably end up with really low values most of the time. So one of these two is the best, and you can kind of play around with it and see which one you like better. But I'm just going to do highest. So now I can show all vehicles. And as you can see, for the vehicles in this list that had pretty close to correct display names, you have some pretty accurate pricing information here. Like for example, let's see, the Cullinan that we were working on is here and got a price of $580,000. It's probably a little bit high. We might have got a better result with average, but for the most part, a lot of these vehicles in here have pretty accurate prices, I would think. So the next thing that we need to do is actually assign all of these vehicles with class names. And what this class name does is this ultimately represents the grouping of how the vehicles are going to show up once you get into the Premium Deluxe Motorsport dealership. So like for example, if you just open up your GTA 5 directory and you go to your scripts, Premium Deluxe Motorsport vehicles file, you'll see there's already a bunch of INI files in here by default that just have all the base game vehicles grouped by their different class. So once you got into the dealership, you would see each of these in a different menu, more or less. Um, so what ends up happening here is we can assign our own custom classes to show up as different menus once we get in here. And for each unique class that you have in here, it's going to generate a different INI file so that all those cars will be grouped together in that file. So like for example here, I can edit a vehicle. I'm just going to edit that Cullinan that we've been looking at. Don't want to add the name, don't want to add the make. I do want to edit the class. I'm just going to call this custom SUV. Skip everything else. I'm going to show all vehicles. And now that Cullinan has a class of custom SUV. So now if I were to go and click Save Changes, it's asking me for my target language. So you select the language. I'm going to use American. And it went ahead and generated the files none.ini and custom SUV.ini because these are the two unique classes in this list. And if I go and I open up where that was output to, this Premium Deluxe Auto Manager, you'll see these two separate INI files. So none.ini has all the other cars, and then custom SUV has just that Cullinan in it. And the next part of this is it's saying, hey, you've successfully saved those changes. And now it's asking you if you want to automatically import those changes into your GTA 5 scripts folder. So you can do this step manually also. And I'm actually going to show you the manual way first before I do the automatic. So I'm just going to select no for now. And what you would need to do next if you're doing this manually is to actually open up that scripts folder. So I'm going to open up my GTA 5 folder again. I'm going to go in here to scripts, Premium Deluxe Motorsport, and I'm going to open up my vehicles folder. So once we have this vehicles folder open, what we want to do is actually go ahead and grab those INI files that were generated. So I'm going to open up my Premium Deluxe Motorsport or Auto Manager folder. And here are these two INI files that were generated. So I'm just going to copy both of these and just copy them right over. And they both got inserted here. And then we're going to go into the languages folder. And you select the language of your choice. Mine is American. And then inside this underscore language file inserts.txt file, it went ahead and generated this list of inserts that we need to copy into this file for our two custom classes that we created. So I'm just going to copy these and then I'm going to paste those in there. And then when I started up my game and went to that Premium Deluxe dealership, you would see two new classes for none, and custom SUV. But what if I don't want to edit all of the class names for all of my vehicles? What if I just wanted to get all these integrated into the existing list of class names for the vehicles? Well, I'm going to show you how you can do that also. So I'm just going to delete these for now because we won't be using those. And I'm also going to delete these two INI files as well. So now back in my Premium Deluxe Auto Manager, I still have my Cullinan under the custom SUV class, but all of these other ones are just under the class of none. So what if I just wanted to auto assign all the ones that are none? But what you can do is you can say edit multiple vehicles, and you can pick this option for auto assign class names from meta files. And that will go ahead and pull the class name from the meta file and just assign it to the vehicle. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it just for vehicles that have the class none. So 83 updated successfully. I'm going to show all vehicles, and as you can see, all these vehicles now have their class from their meta file. Now, what I can do at this point is save changes again. Select my target language of American. I'm going to say no again for now to not automatically copy things. And I'm going to check out what we just generated. So as you can see, there's an INI file for each of those classes and then custom SUV for my Cullinan. Now, the thing about this is if I were to go and copy these into this vehicles folder, it's going to overwrite the existing stuff there. So like all the base game vehicles that are already in here, they're not going to be in this list. So when I copy these files over, it's just going to overwrite these and just kind of wipe those out. So what if I just want to keep all the base game vehicles and just get my custom download vehicles into those same lists? Well, you can do that as well. So if I just open up my generator again, and I'm just going to say import vehicles from GTA 5 folder. So it went ahead and imported all those existing INI files and merged them into my list. So now when I show all vehicles, you're seeing all of my base game vehicles and all of my add-on vehicles just within the same list. But you still also have my Cullinan, which has its custom SUV class. So now what I'm going to do is actually save these changes, and I'm going to let it automatically copy my changes into the GTA 5 folder. So I'm going to pick American again, and same disclaimer here, it's going to try to automatically copy everything into the vehicles folder and the languages folder. So I'm going to click yes. So it's telling me that they were updated successfully. And now I'm going to open up my GTA 5 folder again. And as you can see, this time, instead of having to do that stuff manually, it copied all those INI files in here. Here's my custom SUV. If I open up like Super, for example, I should see some add-on cars in here mixed with the base game cars. Or if I go to Sport, I think Sport was the one with some base game cars. Yeah. So you see like a Taycan in here, a Porsche Taycan, but you also see a bunch of base game cars. And then if I go to languages in my American.cfg folder or file, you'll see it went ahead and added my custom SUV insert. So at this point, I should be able to start up the game. All right, so here I am in game at the Premium Deluxe Motorsport dealership. If you go through a few of these categories, you can see my add-on vehicles in here mixed in with the base game cars. And then if I scroll up to the top here, here's that custom SUV category that I set up just for this Cullinan. name is correct, the price is what we set it to, and everything looks good. So hope you guys found this video helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one.